Hey, welcome back. I'm Ferrikster, here to bring you some more Pokemon Go GBL battles. These battles are in Open Great League. That's kind of my league of choice when we're given all three leagues. It is the one least affected by XL Candy. So it's just got a really wide meta. Right now, the meta is actually so wide still. Even after having been here for a couple of days, it doesn't really seem to have coalesced around anything. So, yeah, I am opening with Drapion. Drapion is very, very strong against a Trevenant lead, and there have been quite a few of those. In the back, I have Medicham running Ice Punch and Psychic. I think that's probably the most normal set with the widest coverage, so it can at least hit most things, at least somewhat. And I have an Azumarill, which is something that I use a lot. It's just still very solid. The popularity of Trevenant has made it a little more difficult to run, but I haven't found anything else that's been more consistent so far. I had been messing around with different teams for the last few days, trying to find something that worked a little bit, and yeah, finally landed on this opening with Drapion, and I have felt a lot more comfortable since I started opening with that. Drapion has pretty wide coverage, and it can also out-spam a lot of things. So, you know, it has pretty good play against things like Nidoqueen, Sableye, Azumarill itself in the lead. Really struggles against Galarian Stunfisk, although if you load up with enough energy, you can definitely get some things done there, especially if you correctly shield an Earthquake, but it's definitely not, you know, super fun being in a really bait-dependent matchup. So when I end up with a G-Fisk lead, I'll tend to switch out right away anyway, especially because I need to draw out a Trevenant if there is one back there, because Trevenant will wreck my backline. So, yeah, hopping into this, there have been a lot of ABB teams where someone is running like Nido Double Dark, Stunfisk Double Ghost. There's a lot of... Yeah, it's a lot of ABB lines, and it's honestly been very difficult to craft a team that can cover everything. So this is just the closest thing I was able to build that still has at least something resembling play against every other team. Every other line that I tried to build for the last few days, I've run into some teams that have just hard comped me, and I've had to kind of rotate them around, try to find something that works. Oh my gosh, this game. So, yeah, this opponent is opening with Shadow Victory Bell, and usually when I see a Shadow Victory Bell or a Bastiodon, I figure there's a pretty good chance that the other one that isn't in the lead is in the back, and they get paired up with a safe swap. So, you know, Victory Bell, Bastiodon core with something used as a safe swap. This guy was using Golbat. So that's... I mean, Golbat is pretty strong against my backline, so I figure I'll just send out a Azumarill. And, you know, my opponent probably, maybe, won't fight for switch as hard because, you know, they would assume that Victory Bell will just come in and farm down anyway. So I'm actually going to let this next Poison Fang through, which may have been a mistake, and I am going to throw this Ice Beam. This is either going to win me back switch or get the last shield, and with no shields at all, Medicham should be okay to sweep Victory Bell, and at this point I was completely under the assumption that there would be a Bastiodon on the back, and if there isn't, then, you know, maybe I'm making a mistake here. You know, if it turns out to be not some kind of steel tank like either Bastiodon or at best G-Fisk, but it is in fact a Bastiodon because, you know, there's always a Bastiodon behind a Victory Bell. And, yeah, got Medicham out, and I'm just going to be able to reach this Psychic, and that's going to one-shot the Shadow Vic. And at this point, I had two shields, and, you know, I could obviously very easily shield Medicham and take out this Bastiodon, no problem, in normal fashion. But I was really feeling like a two-shield flex could happen here, and also felt like maybe... if I try really hard, maybe I can actually sludge this Bastiodon down for kind of the ultimate BM. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Could have gone for the crunch. It would have been perfectly safe and get there a little bit faster. But I was pretty confident that Sludge Bomb would do enough, even though it is triple resisted by Basti. But, yeah, it was enough, so I managed to take that game. That's BM. All right, next up against 245k. Drapion Mirror. So I think if I remember properly, I actually misplayed this mirror match a little bit. Like I did not throw for as long as I could, was able to sneak in an extra poison sting, and I should spam out my move right away. Instead, I threw one extra, and that brought me from like 90, like I don't know, like 90 something energy to 100 energy. I didn't get anywhere near the full energy that you get from a poison sting, so the one that I got in was essentially wasted. I was able to sneak in an extra poison sting on this throw from my opponent also, so now I am ahead by one again, and I should have spammed out my crunch, but instead I threw one extra so that my opponent wouldn't sneak one in, and now I have lost CMP, so I'm going to end up shielding this crunch. And since it was a CMP tie, mine is getting thrown out there, and I should have undercharged a little bit more, because I only actually get one poison sting in to build up there. So now a Trevenant comes out, which is really bad against Drapion and really, really strong against my backline. So I'm going to get a shield there. And I reach my next crunch, so I'm going to get the second shield here. But this Trevenant has so much energy, and yeah, is just Shadow Ball absolutely annihilates Medicham. And Seed Bomb does like really significant damage to Azumarill. Still would take 3 of them if he was going to throw them all back to back. But you know, this is quite bad. So I switch out into Medicham to try to make a catch, hoping that maybe he was just going to spam out the next Seed Bomb right away. And he did not. I also didn't really have the option of throwing a bubble with Azumarill and then switching out to make a catch, because one Shadow Claw, they would get to throw their next Seed Bomb while I was still in the middle of my bubble animation. I wouldn't have been able to get out like that either. So I felt that this, like, insta-swapping was probably my best bet, and there's a Mandibuzz back there, which is really, really bad against Azumarill and very, very, very good against Medicham. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to no-shield this because I need to save my shield for Azu. Azu's Ice Beam is the only thing that can really do anything against Trevenant. I'm able to sneak in a bubble there, and I am definitely going to let this go. That bubble has put me one bubble closer. And Ice Beam actually isn't enough to KO a Trevenant if it gets swapped into an Azumarill, but because this tree took all of the Poison Sting damage from Drapion, all I need is to be able to reach one Ice Beam, and even though I have a little bit of screen lag, I'm able to hit all of the bubbles, and I managed to take that game. That's a GG. And my Azumarill still had enough health that it would have been able to survive a Seed Bomb. So I was pretty safe there. But all right. But yeah, that was a stressful game because yeah, Trevenant. It's pretty dangerous. All right, so yeah, against a Stunfisk lead, I am going to swap out right away to Azumarill, and I am met with a Venusaur, which is a really, really strong answer to Azumarill. Because my opponent swapped in really, really quickly, I'm actually not going to be able to get to my next Ice Beam. Like, normally, if they're even a little bit slow, you can get to the next Ice Beam, and I got it, but I wasn't able to throw it. So I needed to pick up one extra turn there. If my opponent was a tiny bit slower, then I would have been all right. But yeah, did not quite make it. So I am in a really bad position. I am going to be saving my shields for Medicham, and just kind of hoping that he doesn't have a really, really strong Medicham counter in the back. Although, when you lead with G-Fisk, and Venusaur is not the really strong Medicham counter, there's probably a really strong Medicham counter in the back. So, yeah, I'm going to throw this Crunch and do a little bit of chip damage against Stunfisk, and then swap out to Medicham and find that there's a tree in the back. So, yeah. Yeah. So, Stunfisk Double Grass is pretty strong against my team. I'm going to reach another Ice Punch, and that is going to at least force a shield out of Trevenant. But, like, my Drapion has taken way, way too much damage. And since my opponent has 2 shields, there's really nothing I can do here. Like, if I had managed to get if my Azumarill had managed to get to another Ice Beam, then I would have been able to force another shield out. And I might have been able to take out this tree, and if he was a little bit slower to that swap, I would have been able to take out the tree with an Ice Punch. But, you know, my opponent was just very, very quick with these swaps, so, yeah, and their team just kind of hard-countered mine. Wasn't too much I could have actually done in that game. So, yeah, that's rough. All right, Drapion into Empoleon. This is, like, you would think this is not a great matchup for Drapion because, you know, Drapion, generally speaking, isn't amazing against steel types. But Empoleon is so squishy that you can actually just brute force your way through it. Like, I am going to have to shield this, and this Hydro Cannon is being thrown as soon as my opponent has it. I'm going to be able to get to 2 more crunches before they get to the next Hydro Cannon, so I will be able to force a shield or 2 shields or wind switch. So my opponent doesn't want that to happen. They're going to actively swap into their Mandibuzz, and I'm going to build up more energy on Drapion before switching out to Azumarill. And now we're at the Azumarill into Mandibuzz matchup, which, yeah, generally speaking, takes a bit. So that's why I went over and explained the lead a little bit more. So this Empoleon with Mandibuzz in the back team is, I forget whose team this is. This is some other creator, but I can't remember who it is right now. My team is fine against this. Like, Mandibuzz really can't do that much to Azumarill, but I mean, it is doing a lot of chip damage, and I was staying in there and taking forever. So Empoleon's going to be switched back out, and I'm going to throw this Play Rough. And, like, since I'm going to be able to survive a Drill Peck just, you know, is not really an amazing move, and it doesn't have Stab with Empoleon, I'm going to be able to farm this the whole way down and find out that there is a Ninetales in the back. So I was spamming out the Ice Beam, which is unfortunate, and here I'm going to switch out into Drapion and just double throw my Sludge Bombs just to kind of see if I can get this Ninetales out of here. And I think, if I remember properly, I actually misplayed this terribly. Like, this is fine up to this point, although in retrospect, when Empoleon came back out, probably should have just sent Medicham in right away. So now I have a Ninetales left, and I have only a Medicham with no energy up against the Charmer, which is pretty bad, and a Mandibuzz that my opponent, I'm pretty confident, is going to try to catch on, and they do. I'm going to have to shield this, and I should, after I shield this, just switch out to Azumarill. Like, my Azumarill would easily be able to reach a move. There's really no need for me to throw this Ice Punch here. I just thought that I was going to be able to get this Psychic out. I don't know why I thought that. Just misjudged how much energy I had, and I end up getting Charmed down. But yeah, were there, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 things I could have done better in that game? Absolutely. Not super used to running this team yet. I kind of just built it, and I'm just, you know, starting to feel comfortable with it. So, yeah, could I have won that game? Obviously. I just misplayed it really, really badly. But hopefully I pointed out enough of my mistakes that you can run it correctly when you encounter that, because I definitely encountered that team more than once yesterday. All right, Drapion into Obstagoon. This is actually not really that bad even for Drapion, but I'm going to switch out anyway to Medicham to see what kind of other ghosts are in the back, because, you know, Obstagoon seems to be run with either double Charm or double Ghost, so, yeah. Definitely want to find out if there is a tree behind it so that I can get the tree out, because, you know, tree is very strong. Based on what I'm seeing, actually, in these games, I'm starting to think maybe it's time for Shadow Charizard to come back. Like, that feels like it would be pretty good. Or maybe a nice Pidgeot or something. There's a lot of Shadow Claw being used right now. So I'm going to get out this next Ice Punch, and then my Medicham is going to go down. I'm going to bring Drapion out, and I am going to no-shield everything that comes from this coffin. Like, the Shadow Balls hurt, kind of, even though they are resisted. And yeah, I'm going to let this one go also. Kind of just going to save my shields for Azumarill. And I'm going to Poison Sting the whole way down. So Obstagoon's going to come out, and I'm going to just spam out this Sludge Bomb right away. And I could get to the next Sludge Bomb and just KO, but I figured it'd be better for me to bank that energy just to find out what is in the back, and it is a Frostlass. So yes, this is Obstagoon Double Ghost. But Frostlass isn't really that amazing against Azumarill. I'm going to shield the Shadow Ball. I felt that they were most likely to not bait the first move. And then I'm just going to throw this Play Rough, and at this point I'm pretty sure an Ice Beam would be enough to KO, but I'm just going to throw my Play Rough anyway, just to be super safe. I think I misjudged how much an Ice Beam would do against a Frostlass once before in a video not too long ago, and it cost me a very high leaderboard placement. So, yeah, just playing that safe. And now this Obstagoon is pretty low, and my Drapion is only one Poison Sting away from a Sludge Bomb. So this Obs would have to end with a lot of energy if he wanted to be able to take me out. And, yeah, I'm just going to be able to reach this Ice Beam, no problem, and that is going to take Obstagoon out. And that's GG. All right. All right. Next up, Drapion into Stunfisk. Stunfisk is kind of a difficult lead for this team. I'm going to switch out right away to a Azumarill this time, and my opponent is staying in for a bit. So, not too sure what to make of that. I debated shielding this, like waited until the last minute and decided, you know what, no. Excuse me. And there's an Azumarill in the back. So, shielding the Earthquake actually would have put me more ahead. Because then I would have had a Play Rough and then some. Like, I would have been ahead on energy and taken very, very little damage. So, as this is, I'm able to sneak in a bubble there, which definitely helps. This Azumarill is looking like it's getting lined up so that I'll be able to throw one Play Rough and maybe, and I guess just an Ice Beam after that, or maybe even Bubble Down, depending. I think this Azumarill is actually non-XL because it feels like my Play Roughs are doing a little bit more than they normally do, so I'm just going to shield this. Turns out to be a Play Rough. And I'm actually just going to be able to bubble the whole way down. So I spent a shield, but I was able to win switch. So now I'm going to be able to get Medicham lined up with my opponent's Stunfisk. My gosh, heating system, what are you doing? So I'm going to throw that Play Rough, get a shield off of Medicham. Not able to reach another move, so that is unfortunate. And I am going to send Drapion out because while Drapion isn't really amazing against fighters because you take neutral damage from counter, it is just neutral damage, and I figured Drapion would be much better at absorbing Medicham's energy, just because I'll resist the Psychic, and that is the only move that Medicham can usually, assuming they don't have Dynamic Punch, usually throw that actually has like good damage output, whereas Ice Punch is just not a very efficient move. But yeah, my opponent swapped in Stunfisk. I was able to bring out Medicham, punch Stunfisk down. I had to throw an Ice Punch to prevent my opponent from being able to throw an Earthquake, and yeah, now it's just a Medicham. Here I'm going to throw an Ice Punch. This isn't so much a bait as it is making a decision. They ended up shielding, so after that I'm going to go straight Psychic, but if they had not shielded, then I would have just been able to throw another Ice Punch to force the shield out of them, and then another Ice Punch to take the game. It was just it would have taken the least amount of energy, and to go either triple Ice Punch or one Ice Punch and a Psychic, rather than if I threw the Psychic first, and if they ended up shielding it, then I would have to throw like 2 Ice Punches after that, or one Psychic and then some. It was just trying to minimize the amount of energy I would have to use. So they just ended up, shielding the bait. So I got to take the most efficient path through it. But I was just trying to avoid the least efficient path, if that makes any sense. That was really wordy. I'm sorry. All right, so Drapion into Abomasnow. This matchup is mostly neutral. They don't end up shielding my Crunch, so at this point I'm going to have to Poison Sting the whole way down. Going to shield this Weather Ball, and then they're actually going to switch out into Swampert. So I'm going to unload all of my energy. 2 Crunches will pretty much KO a Swampert. Now that I got the defense drop, 2 Crunches will definitely KO the Swampert. I'm going to throw that. I get a shield, and I get another defense fall. I'm going to send out Medicham because it would take a Azumarill way too long to take out this Swampert. And I might have been able to no-shield this Hydro Cannon, survive, and punch down. But I wanted to survive with a little more health because I figured there was a decent chance that that would do more than any other attack. And I definitely think it was probably the right move, because if I hadn't, Azumarill would have come out and bubbled me down. Whereas now I have enough energy to get to that Psychic, and I might even be able to get to another one if they don't throw an Ice Beam, and they actually switch to try to make a catch on Abomasnow, which definitely helps me out a lot. So I'm going to be able to throw this Psychic as soon as the Azumarill comes back out. That was a CMP tie that I won, because my Medicham is a Hundo that's like been powered up to 43.5 instead of the the rank 1, which I think actually loses CMP. So, yeah, tiny advantage eked out by having a different Metacham, and yeah, they didn't want to throw energy. We're going for the farm down against Drapion, and I was able to Sludge Bomb and take that game. That's a GG. All right, next up against Caspian Pike. Drapion into Trevenant. This is great. That's where I want to see the Trevenant. I need to maintain switch. So my opponent swaps out into a Vigoroth, which I would have been running on this team myself if it wasn't so damn bad against Trevenant. I know I had a video up not even that long ago about how Vigoroth has play against pretty much everything. Trevenant is now one of the things that it does not. And unlike Driftblim, Trevenant actually sees some use and can harm Vigoroth back very easily. So yeah, Vigoroth is not the super safe swap that it used to be. It is now measurably worse, just because of the popularity of this tree. So here I'm going to throw an Ice Punch. Hits for super effective, doesn't do a ton. I think the Psychic actually hits for a little bit more damage, and since I was only going to be able to throw one move anyway, I probably should have just gone Psychic. My opponent's going to switch out into their Obstagoon. I am going to stay in with Drapion for whatever reason and throw a Sludge Bomb before switching out. That is going to put the Obstagoon pretty low. Since my opponent still has 2 shields, I'm just going to throw this Ice Beam. I'm not too sure if I should even have been throwing that, but my opponent shields, so that's great for me. And yeah, this Obstagoon is actually carrying Gunk Shot, and it gunks my Azumarill, and that's fine for me. I'm going to no-shield this also. If this is another Gunk Shot, then it'll KO. If it's just a Night Slash, then yeah, I can throw this Ice Beam. I actually ended up just farming up, waiting for them to switch out, and then throwing my Ice Beam against Trevenant, forcing a shield out there, and now I can get Drapion back out aligned here, and I could very safely no-shield this, but this is, you know, a dangerous matchup, and there's no reason for me to try to go for a 2-shield flex here. It's not like I didn't kind of just, you know, I had alignment, and my team comp happens to be theirs, so yeah. There wasn't, as long as I didn't misplay that, there wasn't that much that my opponent could have done there. So yeah, that's a GG. All right, next up against Hoshigumo. Drapion into Umbreon. This is a like neutral-ish matchup that I encountered plenty during Halloween Cup, but since I have 2 very strong answers in the back, I'm going to swap out into my Metacham, because I was pretty confident there would be a tree back there, and Drapion actually does not beat Umbreon cleanly enough to survive and be able to take out a Trevenant after. So I'm going to have to switch out into Metacham just to kind of draw that out if it's there. Metacham can at least, you know, get some damage in with these Ice Punches and maybe force shields. So I'm going to be able to reach my next Ice Punch, but not going to be able to throw it. I could shield this and force the last shield out of my opponent, but I decided to just let it go instead. I come out with Drapion, and this is probably a mistake throwing this Crunch here. I probably should have just farmed up a ton of energy. Umbreon is going to come out, and I am going to let this go. It's going to be a last resort. And, like, you see that it just doesn't do that much. Like, this is a mostly neutral matchup. It's just because Trevenant is such a popular counter to Azumarill right now, if you're going to have Umbreon in the lead, there's a very good chance you're going to have a Trevenant in the back. So I actually needed to play this team as though it were an ABB team and safe swap to something to draw the Trevenant out. So, yeah, now that that's out of the way, my Azumarill feels a lot more safe. I have to hope that Trevenant was the answer to both Metacham and Azumarill. And yeah, my opponent is going to swap into a Unova Stunfisk. So this is a decent answer to Azumarill, but not that amazing. I didn't get the defense drop. I was actually hoping to just get the shield. But like looking at this, I probably should have insta-swapped to Azumarill in the first place. Maybe that would have been a better play. Just so I'd be able to reach a second Ice Beam. Now I'm going to throw this Ice Beam, but this Stunfisk already has a bunch of excess energy from before. And I am out of shields, so I'm going to end up taking this Discharge. And yeah, I mean, if this is a Discharge, it'll KO. I'm not sure if they just barely didn't make it and had to throw the Mud Bomb, or if they were just trying to make sure that they didn't end with any farmable energy. Switch times are pretty much up at this point, so I'm just going to throw this Ice Beam with enough to take them out. And I'm going to switch out into Drapion. I just need to be able to reach a Crunch, and I mean, I reached both moves at the same time, but I was just one turn behind. So I just barely wasn't able to reach that move, and yeah, I'm not able to bubble down this Umbreon either. So yeah, that was rough for me, but that was a really, really close game. Was almost able to convert that into a 5 out of 5, even though, you know, I knew there was a Trevenant in the back, and I was able to draw that out. Yeah, just really close game, very difficult team comp, and yeah, I don't know. That's GG. So this is a short video. I only have 2 sets. I know I usually end up providing 3, but yeah, I've been messing around with a lot of teams, and it's also been the holidays, so I haven't had a lot of time to play Pokemon as much as I normally do. Just, you know, because of my sense of duty to make content. So that's also why I haven't made a video in like 9 days. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to do the things you know you're supposed to do at the ends of videos. Shout out to OnionFrank, who was bothering me in my Discord to make a video, and that's the only reason I even did. And yeah, I will see you guys when I see you.